All right, let's get this recording started. Hello, everyone. I'm Ken Reels, and welcome to this very special This Anime episode. Now, this episode is specifically pertaining to 2020 as a whole. I know the podcast has been out of commission since August. Yeah, that's the last 4 months have been absolute hell. 2020 was like, hey, you know about your podcast? Yeah, we're just gonna fuck with you the whole fucking time. At least in the last half of the year. Um, so the overall talk about this episode is more about 2020 as a whole, what we're doing, what happened in 2020 in terms of the podcast, and where I want to take this podcast in 2021. More importantly, I will say that as of the day I'm recording this special message podcast episode thing, I am recording the January episode. By the time this goes out, the episode will be edited and ready to go for the last Sunday of January. That is when every episode subsequently is going to be released, because that is the last day of January. So every episode subsequently for the next year will take place on the last Sunday of every month. And that will be Sunday morning. So if say you're getting ready for work or whatever on Monday, or you're just chilling around on Sunday, wanting to listen to a podcast, you can do so there, or you can just wait a day and it'll be ready for your Monday commute. But yeah, that is the general housekeeping out of the way. And in general, what 2021 is kind of gonna shape out to be in terms of release. Now, in terms of 2020 in general, I want to say thank you to everyone who has gone about listening to the podcast. I know we're a small group, considering that on average, I'm averaging about like 100 to 150 downloads a month for the podcast, which is really good. Like, I mean, the highest I've pulled up the statistics for the year on our platform Podbean here, and it the highest we ever hit was in July, where we almost hit 400 downloads in a month. That is bonkers. It really is bonkers to me that many people, even so few people in the world, have listened to this stuff. More specifically, like I was breaking down like right here on this list, who's breaking down some of the people that listen to the podcast. A lot of them are US, obviously. France is the number 2. So any French listeners, like, wow, that's pretty cool. The Philippines, that's less surprising because I know anime is really big in the Philippines. And of course Canada. And again, thanks to our friends at This Week in Geek for kind of putting us out there to some of the Canadian guys. I love those guys, and we're going to still continue to invite them on shows, like like legitimately. Maybe not in the first half of the year, but I do have plans to invite Mike Dodd on to do an episode. There is one specific show that I do want to cover specifically with him, because I want to kind of introduce him to it and see his thoughts on it, because I think it's a show that's really interesting. I'm not going to say what it is, but um, from what I know of him, he probably would dig it like a lot. Um, I would just have to uh, again talk with him and kind of organize that. And since I'm going to be guesting on their real play podcast in the near future, that is going to be a lot easier to do. But I mean, the big things that happened this year in January, I was able to get Alex, and then also in August, our August episode, which was the last episode that came out, I brought Alex back in. So we had two episodes with guests on, and those were both syndicated via This Week in Geek as well. And I'm really happy about that. A lot of people got brought in through that. And more importantly, the big thing was us getting on Spotify really early on in the year. And considering Spotify takes up almost 50% of where people are listening to us, thank you guys for, if you're listening on Spotify, thank you tremendously for just your support and just listening to me ramble on about anime of absolute randomness. And some of the other big takeaways personally is I really, really love the fact that some of the older episodes, like the older content, is where we get a lot of our hits currently, because people are like either finding us through our Hunter x Hunter's content, which will be finished by the end of 2021. I promise you that we will finish Hunter x Hunter by the end of the year. That is going to be a plan, and I'll talk about that when I talk of what's happening in 2021. But I'm just tremendously thankful. We went from under 1,000 hits, 1,000 downloads to over 5,000 downloads in a year, and that is tremendous growth. I can't thank people enough for just tuning in and listening to me ramble. It is tremendous to think that this stupid little podcast is reaching just people in general. And I'm incredibly thankful for that. And for anyone who is consistently listening, thank you. And if you want to reach out on Twitter or whatever, like saying thanks, I'd wholly appreciate it. Every bit of thankfulness helps me continue doing this, just because personal motivations and whatnot. But yeah, that is genuinely like a lot of this is just general gratitude. And I'm really thankful for that. There's I've done like little tiny upgrades as I've progressed. More specifically this year was the upgrade of the mixer system, which was early in the year. And then also just this year, I actually decided to kind of fix minor issues, because the big obnoxious cage that I had for my shock mount was an absolute monster and didn't really need to be a monster. And it was kind of hindering me keeping the mic a little more closer to me, so I'm not like fading in and fading out, when I'm moving around as much because I'm going around this big, giant, stupid ass cage. And then I also bought a pop filter because before I would have it like I'm not facing the mic as I wouldn't be facing the mic as much to try and avoid getting those P's and T's and whatnot from popping. But now it's a non-issue. So it's a lot easier to talk directly into the mic as opposed to talking into the ether with the mic right next to me, to the side of me. So you're going to get a lot better quality audio from me here on out. And yeah, now I might as well just jump right into 2021 and what we have in store for 2021. More specifically, I'm gonna talk about the fact that the episodes that I had scheduled, that I had planned for September, October, and November, those episodes have now been obviously moved to their subsequent months in 2021. So we already have the planned episodes for those months already set. Those are set in stone. The October episode is incredibly intensive. I am absolutely I'm literally staring right now at the manga set for Tokyo Ghoul, and that will be our October episode. I pretty much genuinely remember the anime, and I have very strong opinions on that. But I do want to finish the manga and do this deep dive, huge episode for you guys in October. And I really hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope that investment is paid off in just terms of people finding it and hearing my opinion on it, because I have a very strong opinion on it. But yeah, as for 2021, the first episode, which originally was something completely somewhat different. There's not necessarily something super different, just slight change in plans. Because as soon as I watched the first episode of a series that I might cover later on in the year anyway, I went, oh, this is not what I thought it was. I got to change the schedule up a little bit. So I ended up changing the schedule to now have our we are going to be covering the first half of season 2 of Fibrain, that is episodes 1 through 13 of season 2 of the show that, frankly, I never expected to find a series just so utterly fascinating as Fibrain is. Like, spoilers for my talk about season 2, I genuinely am adoring this show. And I can't wait to talk more about it, because it's really, really weird. And we're going to be pairing that with Weathering With You, which is Makoto Shinkai's latest feature, which came out a whole year ago. And wouldn't you know it, before I plan, completely superfluous to my plans, G-Kids makes a deal with HBO Max to put Weathering With You on HBO Max. So you can watch Weathering With You on HBO Max if you have it. If you got it for like, oh, I want to see all of Warner Brothers releases theatrically, all their theatrical stuff for the year because COVID and everything, and I'm not going to go to a movie theater. Yeah, no, if you have HBO Max, you can watch Weathering with You, and it's really cool. It's just one of those cool things that G Kids is doing, and I'm very excited to talk about Weathering with You because it still hits me. It still hits me in the same feels as it did when I saw it theatrically literally a year ago. Don't you remember that, kids, when we could actually go to a movie theater and see an anime movie in theaters? Gosh, I'm getting that vaccine in my arm could not be soon enough. And considering I live in the US, that's a big if. Gosh, things are messed up in my country. I want to just sit here and enjoy some anime in multiple possible ways. Hopefully things are brighter. Let's hope. Let's hope things are brighter. But that is going to be our January episode, and that's going to be the last Sunday of the month. As for the rest of 2021, I have genuinely planned all the episodes for the show up until June. So that means July and August, I do not have planned. September is obviously we're going to finish out the Kenshin live action films. So the last two of the Kenshin live action films, we're going to cover that. I don't know what's going to happen because they're doing I think it's a two more films. So I don't know when that's gonna happen. If it just so happens to come in September, that would be really cool. But just so you are aware, there are more films in the live action series coming, and we will eventually cover those on the show. Like I really do want to cover those on the show. Obviously October is going to be our deep dive into Tokyo Ghoul. That is just the regular Tokyo Ghoul because Tokyo Ghoul Re season 2 is not available widespread enough. The problem is Tokyo Ghoul Re season 2 is stuck on Hulu, and it is not available anyway else. And considering Funimation has season 1, I'm waiting for Funimation to get the rights to season 2. I don't know when the Hulu contract expires, so it's kind of hard for me to watch. It's kind of hard for me to genuinely say like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and watch the entirety of Tokyo Ghoul Re all in one place. There's no all in one place right now, and that's the main problem why I'm not touching Tokyo Ghoul Re yet. Hopefully this year they do kind of some stuff with Tokyo Ghoul Re. I'm not gonna do that on the October episode because that's a whole mess in and of itself. That would require me reading another 20 volumes of manga, of which that's a whole year in and of itself. That's a whole year project in and of itself. And if Tokyo Ghoul Re does get picked up by Funimation in the future, that's what's gonna happen. We'll cover Tokyo Ghoul Re next year. Even though I own the manga now, thankfully to a very, very nice Christmas gift, I got the Tokyo Ghoul Re complete manga set. and that is a monster of a set, considering it's 20 volumes, and the 20th volume is like a jumbo volume. So that's pretty amazing to have in my collection, sitting subsequent to my bookshelf, because my bookshelf is running out of space. But, and of course, our November episode is going to be, we are going to be covering a series, two series that are short series. They're short form anime. And I wanted to cover those two. I've been wanting to cover those two series for a long time. And I'm kind of hoping maybe, just maybe, we get a physical release for one of them, considering Sony has as of December officially inked the deal to buy Crunchyroll off of Warner Media. And there's going to be a lot of changes that happen to both Funimation and Crunchyroll, and Crunchyroll's US conglomerate Verve. There's going to be a lot that is going to change with that. I believe Verve is basically going to die pretty wholeheartedly by the end of this year. Verve will not exist. Verve is a US market only brand, and it's all Warner Media owned properties besides High Dive. So as soon as High Dive's contract ends, which I would think is going to end pretty soon, once that ends, there's literally no other content that Warner doesn't own that's on Verve. So I'm thinking Verve is pretty dead in the water there. So yeah, it's not gonna. It's going to go like the dodo and die, which is sad, but hey, that's gonna happen. I've basically admitted that it's gonna happen eventually, which sucks in terms of my wallet, but oh well. And yeah, that is basically the year. I'm again, plans can change pretty abruptly. If there is something that catches my eye and I just completely binge the crap out of it, like I did with Beastars last year, in 2020 for the March episode, I just completely binged Beastars, and I was like, this is amazing. I gotta cover this immediately. That will happen. It'll just happen. I do have a few themed months planned. Whether they actually fall on the month is the question. Because again, plans will change. And I expect plans to change. But yeah, no, I have kind of a schedule set up, a general rule of thumb. The plan is to have everything ready for I'm literally waiting on just this massive supply of anime from that I bought over the holidays to come to me, because I'm literally I'm literally waiting for them to get one of their items back in stock in their warehouse, because they're expecting more when I ordered it. So it's not like I'm really worried that I'm not going to get all this content, but all that stuff is going to be is getting shipped to me, and I'm waiting on that to start watching the February episodes, the February anime that I have planned, because I want to see it in the best quality possible, and I can't really do that streaming them. More specifically, because one of them is a high dive show, which, that is all I'm going to say about that. One of the episodes is a high dive show that I am covering in February, and specifically because I think it's a very good show and is worth checking out on that service. Which, I mean, if you want to do that, fine. If you want to, and it's the Blu-ray's not as expensive as you would think it is. So if you are a physical collector like I am, it is not cost prohibitive. It's not an Aniplex release, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, that's about it. Again, whenever there was a big announcement while we were on our hiatus that G Kids got the complete rights to Ava. So holy shit, that's amazing. And they're gonna release a complete Blu-ray set that includes all of the original Ava series and End of Ava movie in a set. That's bonkers. And I'm looking forward to dropping like $400 on that. That's gonna suck for my wallet. Hopefully it is not that cost prohibitive. I think $350 is about where I draw the line. If it's $400, maybe. It depends on my financial situation at that point. It's a very it's going to be very interesting when that comes out, and obviously if I were to cover that, I would wholeheartedly want to invite Mike Dodd on for that show specifically. That's not the show I'm talking about earlier on in this talk, but I know Mike's a big Ava fan, and I want to bring someone on who is big into Ava and likes the property. I'm ambivalent to Ava. I'll give it that. I'll tell you that much. But I'm very excited that we are finally getting a Blu-ray release after forever of it being available to watch on Blu-ray in Japan, and like the whole fucking clusterfuck of situations that goes on with getting Ava on Blu-ray outside of Japan, because it's a whole rights clusterfuck, and Ava fans are fucking crazy, and the main reason why we never got it was fear of reverse importing, because let me think. I think it was like $1,000 for Ava in Japan. Like the Blu-rays were like $1,000. That's ridiculous. Like $1,000 in US terms, USD terms, not Japanese terms. Japanese terms, a lot of yen, a lot of yen, hundreds of thousands of dollars a yen. That's so cost prohibitive that I'm just like, no, that's not worth anywhere near what it should be. But yeah, that is it for this little chat, as it were. Again, thank you to anyone that has listened. Thank you to anyone who has shared this podcast with their friends, online, on social media, whatever. Like, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for sharing. And here's to 2021 not sucking as much. One can only hope. Thank you for listening to This Anime.
Okay, master. Let's kill the whole.
No. If anything, just like us on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/thisanimepodcast. Follow the podcast on Twitter @thisanimepod, or comment on our episode posts over at thisanimepodcast.com. That's This Anime Podcast on Facebook, @thisanimepod on Twitter, and thisanimepodcast.com.
Yes. Oh my god.
This Anime is available on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play/podcasts. If you're listening on one of those platforms, please consider subscribing, rating, and or reviewing on those platforms to help us grow. Every time you do so, it helps This Anime take over